Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Accent Training Podcast. My name is Pat. I'm your personal American accent coach. And my friend, I have succeeded in running a marathon. I've been making a few episodes lately talking about my marathon progress, my training, getting up early in the morning, giving up bad habits, making sacrifices in order to reach the goal of running 42.2 kilometers, a full marathon, and completing it within 5 hours and 30 minutes. 5 hours and 30 minutes. Pretty good time for my first try. Not a bad time at all, actually. So why am I telling you all this? Well, I want you to know that you can do it too. Whether you're doing physical training for a marathon, or you're in med school studying to become a doctor, or if you're learning the American accent, you are capable of accomplishing incredible things. How do I know this? Well, because 9 months ago my journey began. I was trying to set a serious goal for myself. Something that felt unachievable at the time. I had heard that marathons are extremely difficult and require a lot of training. And in those days, I couldn't run more than 1 kilometer. So I set my sights on running a full marathon, and I began training. First, I went and declared my ambition to my wife and my mother-in-law. We sat down around the dinner table that night, and I said, on December 10th of this year, in 9 months, I'm going to run a marathon. And you know what these ladies did? They laughed. They laughed. As if to say, no way, shut up, eat your dinner. You're not going to run a marathon. But that laugh lit a fire in me. Now I had to do it. Now I had to prove that I could. And so the next morning I got up and I started training. I ran 500 meters to 7-Eleven, 500 meters back to my house. And I was absolutely exhausted. 1 kilometer. That was my start. I took a day or two to let my legs recover, to stretch, and I got out again. Maybe this time I did closer to 3 kilometers, 2 to 3 kilometers. A couple days later, I got out again, and again after that. And my runs started to get longer. I went from 1 kilometer to 3 to 5 to 7. And I had to start waking up earlier in the morning. At first, I was getting up at 7 in the morning. 7 a.m., done by 7:30, no problem. But when I started getting into 7 kilometers and 10 kilometers, and it was taking an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours to run, I had to get up earlier. 7 a.m. was not going to cut it. And I quickly found that 6 a.m. was also not good enough. Because during the months of May, June, July, and August, well, those are very hot months here in Mexico. And if you're out running when the sun's up, it's dangerous here in Monterrey. If you're running and it's 7, 8, 9 in the morning, like you can get heat stroke, you'll get dehydrated. There's so many risks. It's a bad idea. And so before I knew it, I was waking up at 4 in the morning so that I could get in a long run of 10, 14, or 17 kilometers. And I stayed in that range for a while. I'd say for the months of July, August, September, I wasn't really getting past 17. And 17 kilometers is quite a run. But it wasn't even half of my official goal. My official goal was 42. That's how long a marathon is, 42.2. And you got to make it every step. You don't have to run the whole way. You can stop, you can walk, have a drink of water, stretch. But traveling 42 kilometers without a car is very tiring no matter how you do it. So I knew that I had to push it past 17 kilometers. Now I was running into a problem. A problem with what we call tendinitis. This means inflammation of the tendon. It's that thick part that connects your heel to your leg. That's your tendon. Mine was getting inflamed, and it would make my feet stiff when I'd run, and it would hurt. It would hurt a lot. It's very painful. And the further I'd run, the more it would hurt. So I had to consider my options here. I could quit. That was one option. But I didn't want to be a quitter. I had a goal in mind. I knew why I wanted to accomplish that goal. Which, by the way, I wanted to accomplish that goal so that my son, who's 11 months old, knows that he can do incredible things as well if he wants to. So that's my goal. This is about my son knowing what it means to be strong. You can't give up if you want to teach your son how to be strong. You got to keep pushing. And so instead of giving up, I went to see a doctor. That's the smartest thing to do. You're in pain. Don't keep doing what you're currently doing. It's a terrible idea. Go see a doctor. I went to a sports doctor. Now, I've got to mention this was a great sports doctor. She did a great job with the rehabilitation, very practical advice. If you live in Monterey and you get injured from sports, you need some rehabilitation, you want to keep playing sports, you want to feel better, visit Doctora Priscilla Flores. You can find her on Instagram, Doctora Priscilla Presija, Doctora Presija Flores. She's in the Monterey area of Mexico. So if you get injured playing soccer, playing anything, whatever you're doing, visit this doctor. She'll get you back on your feet again. And the sports doctor pointed out the problems that I was having, and it just came down to the fact that I wasn't running with proper form. I was essentially just slapping my feet on the ground and slapping them on the ground harder and harder so that I could push myself faster. But all of my efforts were probably doing more harm than good because I wasn't doing it properly. And so she, along with her physical therapists, showed me a few exercises, how to strengthen my muscles properly, how to move my feet properly, and how to engage with my muscles properly so that I could maximize my results and not do more harm than good. Now, I'd like to comment here. That's the exact same message that I give you folks listening all the time, right? We've got to have good habits or else we're likely to do more harm and pull us away from our objective than good, which positions us well to achieve our objective. And so I learned the good habits, and I began incorporating the exercises, the stretching, the proper form. I began incorporating these things, these good habits, into my routines, into my running, into my training. And you know what happened? I found the strength to push past 17 kilometers. I pushed past 17, and I did 21. And then from 21, I pushed on to 24. From 24, I pushed on to 39. And then from 39, I pushed on to 40. I reached my goal because I took the time to assess what I was doing wrong, how I was harming myself instead of improving myself, and I dropped the bad habits and I picked up good habits. So now we're caught up on the training. That's just a quick summary of all the running, all the preparation that I did to make serious life changes and condition my muscles and my body to be prepared for a marathon. Now, in the days leading up to the marathon, I was nervous. I was very nervous. And because I was nervous, every little pain I would feel in my foot would make me think, oh my God, I can't do this. I would Google everything, and don't do that. That's a terrible idea, but I did it. I would Google the pain I was having in my foot, which was really just me being nervous. And Google would tell me, oh, you shouldn't be running a marathon in that condition. Oh, you're going to have problems. You're going to need surgery, blah, 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 blah. It was all in my head. Google was trying to get into my head. I looked up tendinitis, running a marathon with tendinitis on Google. Ooh, you don't want to do that, Patrick. You don't want to do that. You might have some serious problems and you'll be crippled and you'll have issues for years. You run a marathon with tendinitis. What are you, crazy? And all these excuses started to come up in my head. Maybe I should drop out. I don't know if I got it in me. Is it really worth putting my body through this? Now, luckily, a student of mine is a foot surgeon. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He knows all about foot problems. And so I told him about my worries. I told him, I've been looking up these things on Google and it says I might have this problem, might have that problem. Tendinitis is an issue. What do you think? And he said, look, the problems that you have in your feet are problems that most runners get. You're running very long distances. You're running 20, 30 kilometers, and that's just your training. If your feet are a little sore, that's normal. Don't worry about that. He told me that if my muscles are strong enough, if my body has the energy to run the full distance of this marathon, that it's unlikely I'll have any long-term problems from my feet if I give it a shot. He said that the biggest thing is just going to be about pain tolerance. How much pain can I tolerate before I have to give up? All you have to do is take some measures for pain tolerance, do some serious stretching, a little physical therapy, and you should be able to make it to the other side of this marathon without causing any serious problems. Now, if that particular student is listening, I've got to say thank you very much for your words, my friend. Those words were running through my head again and again and again as I was hammering on through this marathon. So race day came finally. I got up at 3 a.m, put on a coffee. I had an ice bath. Ice baths have all kinds of benefits, but honestly, I just use it to wake myself up. It's not fun, but if you sit in an ice bath for 3 minutes, you will wake up. You're not falling back asleep after that. You're ready for the day. So I sat in the ice bath for about 3 minutes, got out of there, had a nice hot shower, coffee was ready, had some coffee. I had a delicious smoothie for electrolytes and some last-minute easy proteins, carbs. And then along with my wonderful wife, who's been very supportive through all of this, and my mom and my mother-in-law, some friends, and my baby boy, by about 5 or 5:15 a.m., we were heading out to the park to meet up with the other runners for the marathon. And then I went and joined the other runners. There were 7,500 people, and I was right around the back. So finally, the race started. And then slowly, this big throng of people that I was stuck in the middle of was moving as a unit. Everybody was moving forward. And I could see the starting point right in front of me getting closer and closer. The clock was ticking. It was at about 12 minutes now, and at the 12-minute point, I finally began the race officially. Now, I had studied the track a little bit before this, so I had some running strategy. I knew that the first 5 kilometers were going to be very easy without any inclination. It was mostly flat, which is pretty easy for running. So the first 5 kilometers, no problem. I stopped at about kilometer number 5 just to have a quick little stretch, loosen up my tendons so that the tendinitis didn't become too big of an issue. And then I just kept on going. The next 10 kilometers were also relatively easy. Minimal inclination. The weather was nice. It was maybe 10 degrees Celsius. Nice for me, running out in 10 degrees Celsius, no problem. Lots of people cheering us on, handing out water, electrolyte drinks, energy snacks, all kinds of great things just to keep you moving. Pieces of banana, orange, peanut butter, all kinds of great stuff. Now, after about 15 kilometers, the inclination rose significantly. There was a lot more uphill running. You could say that the battle got tougher. It got thick. After 15 kilometers, a lot of people who had used too much of their energy, who had pushed themselves really hard in those first 5 to 15 kilometers, were walking. A lot of those people were out of energy, and they couldn't really push themselves too much more. Myself, I was feeling pretty good at about 15, but then 15 to 21, that started to take a toll on me, and that's when the tendon started to flare up again. That's when I started to get that pain in the back of my ankle, and I could just feel, this is going to be rough. I've got a long run ahead of me. So about 21 kilometers in, halfway through, a lot of people were stopping and walking. They were out of energy. They were in pain. And 21 kilometers is no joke. That's a very long, grueling run. Not easy to accomplish, 21 kilometers. And a lot of folks didn't want to play anymore. Folks, this is just a quick message to remind you to subscribe to the Accent Training Podcast. If you haven't already, you don't want to miss a second of this accent training experience. And you want to be updated whenever I've got new content out for you. So if you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe now. But I wasn't there to play. I kept pushing past. I'd stop now and then to stretch, to try to loosen up my tendon a little bit. I'd slow myself down a little. But truly, at that point, it didn't feel like the pain was going away. I ran up to an aid station, just, a little help station. They've got medics, they've got doctors, volunteers who are there to help the runners. And they gave me a little bit of cream, just a little bit of what you'd call A535. This, cream for your muscles. It gets hot and then it gets cold. It kind of helps relax your muscles. It's good for muscle pain. And it did help reduce the pain. It helped with the pain management. Just a little bit. Enough for me to continue using proper form, I had to lift my ankle up properly, and to rely on my energy and my conditioning to push me through. So after applying a little bit of cream on my leg and on my tendon, I just kept moving, kept on running. I made it to about the 30-kilometer point. 30-kilometer point, and that's where I saw my lovely wife, my mom, and my wife's friends. They were there cheering me on. Hey, go Patrick, go Patrick. My wife had some of these energy gels to give me. It's like a gel full of electrolytes and salt. Very good for long distance running. And so she gave me a couple of those so I could keep my energy levels up. She had some nice spray to put on my ankle. Just helped me loosen up a little bit. I was in a lot of pain, but I'll be honest, I wasn't going to show them any of that. She was the one sitting at the dinner table laughing at me at the beginning of all this, right? I wasn't going to show her the pain I was going through. I was going to make this look like a walk in the park. And that's what I did. I ran right up there. I said, oh, yeah, my foot's just a little bit tense. If you could just spray it with that. Oh, yeah, thanks. I'll take those energy packs. Okay, love you. See you at the finish line. And I hit the road again, kept on running, 12 kilometers to go. Now, the final 12 kilometers were not that bad in inclination. It was mostly flat. There was a little uphill, a little downhill, but it was mostly flat. Wasn't that bad. It was running along the highway here. It was lovely, very scenic. Really, Monterey is a beautiful city, lots of mountains, beautiful place. Like I said, my energy was good. My energy levels were sustained overall. It was that foot pain. Through those last 12 kilometers. Those last 12 kilometers 30 to 42, were the most physically challenging experience of my life. I pushed through, and I didn't stop. I was running at such a slow pace. I honestly felt like I could hardly lift my foot up. It felt like someone was slowly sawing off my foot with a dull blade. Not even a sharp one. Very slow and drawn out pain. But the words of my student ran through my head. Once again, it's just a question of pain tolerance. You can do this. It's just about how much pain you can take and how bad you want it. And you know what? I wanted it. And a vision popped into my head of me carrying my son, my baby boy, 11 months old, carrying him across the finish line with me, in my arms. And that vision pushed me through. Keeping that in my mind, every time I would think about it, I'd get a burst of energy. And the pain in my foot was nothing compared to the love that I felt for my son and the drive that I felt to carry him through the finish line and show him what it means to be strong. And so kilometers 30 to 35, that was hell. But I pushed through. 35 to 36 might as well have been a decade of running. It felt like another lifetime. 36 to 37. 37 to 38. The closer I got to the finish line, the more I wanted to quit, the more pain I was under. The slower I went, the closer I got, the further away it felt. I made it through 38, 39. People on the sidelines were cheering, you're already there. 39 kilometers, this is all you. Anything beyond this, it's all vanity. You got this. Oh, I kept pushing, kept hammering through. I didn't want it anymore. But I kept pushing. 39 to 40, 40 to 41. And then I heard someone yelling, it's just 500 meters. Solo faltan 500 metros, 500 meters. And I thought, 500 meters. I pushed through those 500 meters and I saw the sign that said 42 kilometers. At that point, my mind could not believe it. At that point, I felt like it was a lie. 42 kilometers is a lie. It felt like there was no 42 kilometers. This is just me now. I'm just someone who's running and suffering for the rest of my life. This is what I'm going to be doing forever. I felt like there's no end to this. There is no finish line. This is forever pain. Even though I was at 42 kilometers, I only had 200 meters to go. My mind did not believe it. My brain was literally telling me this is never going to end. But from the 42 kilometer point, I could hear the people cheering. I could see all the photographers. There were a lot of photographers. I could see them all over the place taking pictures. People's families cheering them on. You made it. You go. And I thought about my boy, thought about Ian. And so I looked around and I could see my wife was there with my mom, with Ian, my baby boy, and she held him out for me. And I grabbed him, held him in my arms. And I ran across the finish line. Maybe it was 20 meters that I ran with him for. Ran those 20 meters with my baby boy in my arms across the finish line. I did it. I completed my marathon. 42.2 kilometers done. And now Ian knows he can do it too. And he loved it. He felt like a celebrity after that. He was laughing. He was so happy because everyone was taking pictures. People were cheering for him. He loves the attention, this little guy. And so I did it, folks. I trained for 9 months. I'd say 7 months of hardcore training. 7 months of heavy training, consistently getting up, and then maybe 2 of the months was on and off training. But 9 months with one focus, one objective in mind, and making decisions that would bring me closer to that objective every single day, shaping my days around reaching that objective. So let me read to you one more time my definite statement of my marathon. Because I read this every day since I started training, and I made a few modifications here and there, but this definite statement worked, and it helped me reach my goal. Through sacrificing the comfort of sleeping in late, energy, and smoking cigarettes, I will run a full marathon on December 10th, 2023, beginning at 6:45 a.m. I will achieve this by running early in the morning and incrementally increasing the distance that I run. That is the power of writing a definite statement and following through with it. Now, did the definite statement alone get me to my goals? No, of course not. Took a lot more than just a couple of motivational words, but it will keep your mind on one specific destination. You'll know where you're headed, and you'll know why you're headed there. Now, as you know, in the last couple months, I've also decided that I want you to be holding me accountable for running this marathon. And so I've got to say, my friend, thank you so much for all the time that you've listened to these marathon episodes where I'm just vainly talking about myself. I absolutely appreciate your support. I appreciate that you didn't give up on me, that you wanted me to finish. I know that you're rooting for me. I know that you were saying, oh, Pat's going to do this. I know that on December 10th, in the morning, you woke up, maybe you said a little prayer for me, maybe a little candle, or maybe you just thought, wow, Pat's out there today. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. Well, you held me accountable, and my friend, I made it happen. Thank you so much for your support on my progress, on my training. Thank you for listening. And now I encourage you to use my story of success to drive you to succeed in incredible things as well. Have a good one, my friend.